They often say it takes a village, but for a magical run like this one, it takes an entire team.
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Wolfpack Nation? It's time to get locked in with Locked On. Thanks for making Locked On Wolfpack your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Happy Wednesday to all. As always, I'm Grayson Boone, joined by former Wolfpack defensive tackle Kenton Gibbs. And Kenton, we've heard about credit going to the players for both of our NC State basketball teams making it to the Final Four. A lot of credit going to the coaches, Wes Moore, Kevin Keatts, for the work that they've poured into these teams to get this far. But I thought we should take a couple minutes here to discuss some of the unsung heroes, because it takes a lot more than just the head coach and just the players to pull off amazing feats like we have in both of these teams right now. So I'll start here on the men's side. A couple of unsung heroes that I feel that should really get a lot of credit here. The assistant coaches. Joel Justice, Kareem Richardson, Levi Watkins, Larry Dixon, Steve Snell. These guys are doing a lot of the behind-the-scenes work in scouting these teams in the NCAA tournament. I cannot remember the program that I was listening to Coach Keatts speak on, but he said basically after Selection Sunday, when they saw their pod they were in with three other teams being Kentucky, Oakland, and Texas Tech, they split up duties in scouting all three of those games, being that they had to play Texas Tech and then additionally either Oakland or Kentucky. And I thought it was cool to kind of get a behind the scenes listen to how that sort of thing is handled amongst a coaching staff, because a lot of times it is a hard scout after you play one team and then you don't know who you're about to get in potentially that second game. But you look at knocking off Texas Tech and then immediately having to roll into Oakland, fast track to becoming America's darling, Jack Volpe and the three-point shooting and ousting Kentucky from the tournament. But NC State felt comfortable in that game for the majority of the time. Had to grip your seat a little bit as we went to overtime, but you felt really comfortable in the scout for that game. They had to take Jack Golke out of that game, and Casey Morcell did a magnificent job at limiting what Golke was able to get. And it was around that time where I really started thinking about the assistant coaches and all the work that is going a little bit unnoticed to continue this momentum. And you could even look back in the ACC tournament run as well, 5 games in 5 days. It takes every single person on this staff to pull off an incredible run like that. So we have a couple players that have stepped up to be unsung heroes, but for me, it's the assistant coaches of this men's team that have really been behind the scenes winners in this whole ordeal.
Yeah, I 1,000% agree. You know, like you talked about, the scouting and all of that is vitally important. It is vitally important, and it's really special to see what they have, what the coaches have been able to do in terms of having this team prepared for every game. My guys that are the unsung heroes for this thing are the wings, or the 3-and-D guys, as we know them, and Casey Morcell and Jaden Taylor. When you look at the stat sheet, they will not pop out at you in almost any of the games. You will not look at them and say, oh, my God, they're crushing it. But if you watch the games, they are making it extremely difficult on some of the best scoring guards in the country. They had an All-American in hell. That young man's jersey was ripped and his catapult was out and showing for a reason. When you look through this entire run, how many guys can say, hey, I was efficient and I was crushing against this NC State backcourt, against those NC State wings? Who? RJ Davis got 30, but he took quite a good chunk of shots to get there. The All-American from Marquette, who, he struggled a little bit. Dude, their guards were definitely going through, especially in that first half. Oh, my God. I'm going to tell you, Morcell and Taylor were on them boys like white on rice. That was, they were all over the place. So those are two that Mo Diarra obviously putting on historic runs in terms of rebounding. DJ Burns is America's sweetheart. And Michael O'Connell, MO3 is the big shot guy, and that's who he is. And DJ Horne, of course, is always going to be a leading scorer and a leader. Again, even if you didn't watch the game, you look at the stat sheet and he's going to pop out. But those two, they're two guys that, again, if you're not paying attention, they will definitely go unnoticed.
Yeah, I definitely agree in Jaden Taylor and Casey Morsell getting a lot of that unsung hero love, because oftentimes the on-ball defense in a game, it'll go unnoticed. Understandably, all the attention's going to go to scoring or a big block. The consistent defense over the course of 40-minute games here, it flies under the radar. And so Jaden Taylor and Casey Morsell, they have done an excellent job locking down some of the most daunting guard play that we've had to see all season long. Tyler Kolek was Marquette's really main source of offense. Marquette certainly missed like 27 threes. That'll play into the formula. But outside of Kolek, they just couldn't find any consistency from anywhere else. Guess where that comes from? That comes from the in-your-face stick-em defense that Taylor and Morsell provide. I think possibly Jared McCain of Duke was really the best performance we've seen against this team in this 9-game stretch. He was fairly efficient, despite Duke not able to get much of anything else going behind him. So one more I want to mention here, Mo Diarra. His effort on the boards has been otherworldly. We all know all of this has been throughout his observation of Ramadan, which makes it that much more impressive. And so when you have a guy that can get you 12 to 14 boards a game, that changes the way you can manage a game. That changes second chance points that you give away to a team that can eventually bury you. So all of that has been fantastic across the board. Jumping over to the women's side here, they have some unsung heroes as well, Kenton. What do you have for them?
Some people are going to say this is cheating, and I don't care. The front court. We played two of the best scoring front courts in the nation in Stanford and then Texas back-to-back. And yet we continue to frustrate the ever-living daylights out of both of those teams' front courts. We were told that Texas is so long and they're so deep and they can throw multiple 6'3", 6'4" bodies at you. How'd that work out for them?
Right.
Down the stretch, who was the best big in that game by a mile? Oh, River Baldwin by a mile. Mimi Collins as well. Again, her numbers may not pop off the stat sheet to say she's been crushing out there, but watch what she's doing defensively, making it hard on opposing teams' bigs. And I'm going to tell you, they're going to need another huge performance from that front court defensively against, South Carolina, because if you allow Cardoso and company down low to get it rolling, you're done. It's cooked. It's over with, Gamecocks by 50. But if you can stop them, if you can make them a perimeter-oriented team, you can find yourself in a national championship real quick.
My two names for the women's team that really have stood out to me is River Baldwin for one and Zoe Brooks for the other. I think Zoe Brooks, she has been putting together very solid stat lines, but to be just a freshman, although she has not played like a freshman really at all.
She may be young, but she's ready.
So incredibly impressive Zoe Brooks has been. She's been so instrumental in what you've seen out of Sanaya Rivers and Isaiah James. Zoe Brooks has been such an impressive auxiliary piece to all of this. She can give you scoring in pivotal minutes. She can handle the ball in pivotal minutes. She can give you a clutch steal in pivotal minutes. And I think when Isaiah James is going off for 30, yes, that is going to be the main storyline of the game. Zoe Brooks has really flown under the radar to be a key piece to everything this team has achieved here in the last couple weeks. And then rolling back over to River Baldwin, she has gone up against some of the nation's best in the front court, and she has held her own every step of the way. You mentioned Brink for Stanford. Brink had done well in that first half, but when the lights got a little bit brighter and it became winning time, River Baldwin was the one that answered the bell. So shout out to River Baldwin. Shout out to Zoe Brooks. Shout out to both of these teams again. We're still going to the Final Four. I'm just going to have to keep saying this every single day of the week. Maybe by Friday and Saturday, I'll start to believe it. But it has taken so much for these teams to get to where they are, and every single part of this run needs to be credited appropriately.
And I also want to point out one more thing, okay? Everybody is looking at Isaiah James, and of course she's going to be the hero and all that good stuff because of the phenomenal performances she's putting on. Her ball control has been a very underrated part of this run. She averages 2.2 turnovers per game. Do you know how many she's had through the entire NCAA tournament? She's had 4 turnovers through the round of 64, the round of 32, Sweet 16, Elite 8. She's turned the ball over 1 time per game. I'll tell you what. We always knew that it was there for Zai James. I remember watching her as a true freshman and saying that stock is going to get real expensive to buy pretty soon. I'm going to get in early on this one because we saw the flashes there. And she had those moments where, you say no until she crosses somebody up and goes to the rim. But there would also be moments where she ball handled herself into a corner and it was an easy turnover and easy 2 points on the other end. To see the way that she's now controlling the tempo, controlling the pace, taking the shots that are there for, leaving the ones that are not, making good, smart passes, not feeling that need to over-dribble, it's special.
Coming up next, we're going to start talking about DJ Burns versus Zach Edey, the unstoppable force versus the immovable object, after a quick word from our sponsors. First sponsor of the day is Amazon Fire TV. Fire TV is your destination for sports, from live games to highlights to in-depth analysis. Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs, as well as the Fire TV stick that you can plug into your existing TV. Whether it's the first couple weeks of MLB or the Final Four and national championship of the college basketball tournament, you're going to want to have a Fire TV. Fire TV has recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from all of your favorite sports brands, all for free. This actually includes all of us here at the Locked On Podcast Network and most of the big pro leagues and the college conferences as well. Fire TV channels lets you dive into all of the in-game analysis, highlights, and more to keep up to date on all of the latest in the world of sports. Not to mention great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, and cooking videos as well. So check out Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, well, you should. Trust us on this. To learn more, visit www.amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. We got Purdue in the Final Four on Saturday. DJ Burns versus Zach Edey. That is the main matchup that is going to get all of the attention going into this game. Rightfully so. We all know what DJ Burns is, the rock star that he has become now on a national scale. But if you followed college basketball at all this year, you also know about Zach Edey. He is more than likely going to win National Player of the Year. He's averaging 25 points a game. He's averaging, I think it's like 12 boards a game. He's 7'4". He's 300 pounds. And he has been more or less the engine for this Purdue run to the Final Four. This, of course, presents a daunting task for DJ Burns in the paint. We've all seen in the past that DJ Burns has at times struggled a little bit to superior length in the paint. You think of Kalkbrenner last year in the NCAA tournament against Creighton. He could not find passing lanes. He could not find his shot, and he got frustrated. And so coming into this game, Kenton, what do you think is the most important thing for DJ Burns to do against Zach Edey?
Stay out of foul trouble.
Yeah.
Stay out of foul trouble. That's it. That's literally the whole deal. With Zach Edey, I've heard about the whistle that he gets, and everybody talks about it and all that. And I'm going to read a tweet from Robert Griffin III here.
I was going to reference this if you didn't, so this is perfect.
I'm going to go ahead and put this out here right now. Please, for the love of God, let Zach Edey and DJ Burns play ball in the Final Four. The last thing we want to see is DJ Burns get hit with 3 fouls in the first 5 minutes of the game on ticky-tack calls. Let them play. I don't think y'all understand how bad a whistle has to be for a national pundit to be like, please don't hit this guy with unnecessary fouls. Don't do it. So the biggest thing for DJ, if you stay out of foul trouble, we'll be just fine. We'll be just fine. And I'm of the mindset that you need to defend him in a very simple way. Build a wall and say, hey, other guys, if y'all can beat us, congratulations, you'll win the ball game. But we're not letting him go for 40 like he did on Tennessee. Absolutely not. That should at least be the game plan, in my opinion. Trust them to miss those shots. And, you, of course, recover and all that good stuff and know in the scouting report who needs to be left open and what the rotation should be, of course. But The biggest thing, make somebody other than Edey beat you. Anybody but Zach. Anybody but Edey. That's who you need to if they can win with their guards putting up 45, 50, heck, even 60, you take that and you move on. But if you let Zach Edey go off for 40 because DJ Burns got in foul trouble, it's going to be a long day at the office.
Yeah, you and I are on a very similar track of mindset here. I do think that the key to this game will be making everyone else on Purdue be the ones that have to win it. Zach Edey is Zach Edey, and I wouldn't call him a foul merchant because he's just really big, and sometimes to defend a guy, you have to hack him. I wouldn't call him a foul merchant, but he shoots a lot of free throws. He averages 11.
I would.
I don't think he's not flopping to get these fouls, though. He's just
really I don't think he's a flopper. I think there's a difference between a flopper and a foul merchant, though. You know what I mean? Like and I think that he definitely, his stats are a little bit inflated by those foul. There's a reason he's not in the NBA. Yeah, I'm not gonna say he's a flopper, foul merchant, absolutely.
The guy has shot 424 free throws over the course of this season. That is a mind-boggling number. That is simply astonishing. And so,
yeah.
Are his stats inflated because of that? Yes, of course they are. I told you he shoots about an average of 11 free throws a game. That's a free 11 to 12 points on every single game. So sure, his stats are a bit inflated, but it is hard to defend a guy that is just simply way bigger than you are. I think a fascinating part of preparing for this is Mo Diarra and Ben Middlebrooks. Everyone wants to talk about DJ Burns and Zach Edey head-to-head, but I think perhaps the most impactful minutes of this game are going to come when Mo Diarra's in the game and Ben Middlebrooks is in the game. We've seen the way that Middlebrooks can impact a game, and he draws a lot of fouls because of his energy that he provides in the paint. It's that Benergy. Perhaps all of that Benergy, that pent-up Benergy in the paint, can end up being impactful against a guy like Zach Edey. Perhaps he draw 2 fouls on him in the first half. I don't know. Maybe perhaps what we're worried about with DJ Burns, we can end up producing against Zach Edey. If you can draw fouls on Zach Edey, that flips the script entirely. If you get him in trouble, like you did with Filipowski, if you get him irritated, perhaps he does play out of character and he commits stupid fouls. Nothing's off the table here for NC State. You have to get creative against a guy like this. I've seen several people, asking to insert Ernest Ross in there because he's got 5 fouls to give. Nothing's off the table here. You got to do whatever it takes to get in this guy's head and figure out how to win this game. But Kenton, you also mentioned making the rest of Purdue have to beat you. I am fully next to you on that point. Purdue's guards shoot it just about as good as anyone else in the country. And so that will be quite the task for Casey Morsell and Jaden Taylor, like we talked about. But I like NC State's physicality in this game. I think they can cause a lot of problems for Purdue's guards, enough in a sense where perhaps Edey going off, it won't be enough. Will Edey go for 30? Maybe. But will 30 win you the game? Probably not. You're going to need a lot more support from everyone else. And so I think if NC State can hold down the fort and lock out everyone else, you give yourself a shot against perhaps the National Player of the Year.
Anybody but Edey, and you ride with the results. Anybody but Edey, and you live with whatever happens. If the other guys can go off and give you 60, you live with that. You say, hey, we did all we could. We weren't going to let their main thing beat us. And, of course, obviously on offense, on our end, of course, get good shots, play it smart, none of that hero ball nonsense. Do what needs to be done as a team, and we'll be just fine.
NC State cannot be afraid to get into the paint offensively. You cannot let Zach Edey tower over you and say, all right, well, we're just going to have to rain from 3 to have a shot. No. Don't change your DNA. You've been overpowering teams by being physical in the paint. You can't stop doing that now. If I'm State, I'm going to run it right at Edey. I want DJ Burns to go right at Edey. I want Ben Middlebrooks to go right at Edey. If he's going to dominate the paint and beat you, at least make him earn it. Make him earn it. Make him beat you from the inside out. Because if he does, then, well, maybe you tip your cap. But you got to go at him and make him stay in this game as long as he can.
Yeah, I agree. Make it different. Make him work on the offensive and defensive end. That's the result. That's the strategy to winning. Because again, you're not going to win if you let him off the hook defensively, to where he's just chilling and resting in the paint. Like, oh, nobody's coming in here to try me. It's just not a good strategy.
Yeah. A lot more analysis to come from us the rest of this week and breaking down exactly what NC State needs to do against Purdue. But coming up next, the viewership for our Elite Eight game against Duke, one of the best ratings in recent memory, after a quick word from our sponsors. Our second sponsor of the day is FanDuel. The sports calendar in April is loaded, and FanDuel is making it even more exciting to get in on the action. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 that you can use to bet on the NCAA tournament, MLB, NBA, NHL, and so much more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a big win. FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Last couple of minutes here on Wednesday, wanted to talk about the viewership ratings that came out for the NC State Duke Elite Eight game released on Tuesday afternoon. 15.1 million people tuned in to watch the Wolfpack upset Duke in the Elite Eight and advance to the Final Four. This was the most watched Elite Eight game in 5 years. The country often talks about how college football and the NFL is king, and that very much is true. The viewership for NC State's victory over Duke in the Elite Eight was better than all but 5 college football games in the entirety of last season. This is no small feat. This is extremely impressive. And we've talked a lot about NC State being in the spotlight. Didn't exactly know it was a spotlight like this, but it proves that NC State's success and this run and the magic around this fan base right now, it is so contagious. Everyone wants to see an underdog, especially when they play Duke. But everyone wants to get behind an underdog, and NC State is America's team. There is no doubt about it. We're the highest remaining seed by a long shot. We're an 11 seed. Nobody's giving us a shot against Purdue, except maybe us. It could be us. Why not us? Why can't we continue this run? There's seemingly nothing that can stand in our way right now, and people want to buy into that. The nation wants to buy into that, and we've talked about how you can parlay that into recruiting and potential future program success. We talked yesterday about the Louisville transfer visiting us, and NC State might be in a good spot for that. I heard Kevin Keatts also say on Tuesday that he's noticed that players around the country have noticed what NC State is doing. This is exactly what we're talking about. NC State has found themselves in an elite, pun intended, spot to grow the brand here, to promote the brand, and ensure that this is not a one-off. Ensure that you can make multiple deep runs in the tournament for years to come.
All I would ask is the people of TikTok stop making edits of NC State and Purdue with Black Hole Sun. Please stop. That is a bad omen. We did it with Lamar Jackson. You did it with the Detroit Lions. No more of those, okay? There are already too many out in the universe, and it's a bad omen, okay? So stop making those. And the viewership, though, in all seriousness, it's a national thing. This is no longer a regional thing. It's no longer a Raleigh thing. And I'm going to tell you, some people are very protective of fandom of their team. Some people are very, closed up. Come on, join the bandwagon, baby. Anybody who wants to join on the Wolf line, come on. We got space. And not just the space where you got to hold the rail and stand up. We got space for you to sit down and get comfortable on this here ride, because I don't think it'll be over this weekend.
I tell you what, I need to see Drake in a Zach Edey jersey by sundown on
They're
Saturday.
both Canadians. So
the connection is there. I need to see Drake in a Zach Edey jersey on Saturday. I need the Drake curse to ensure that we got a real shot at this thing.
All I'm saying is this, Drake. Right now you're the top dog. He's the top dog. Everybody's taking shots at you. Everybody's taking shots at him. I think you should wear his jersey as a sort of, Canadian pride type of thing, because
it makes too much sense.
We love Tim Hortons and hockey and all that good stuff. Hey, listen, support your fellow brethren. Support your fellow brethren in your Canadianness.
NC State is getting all the shine right now, and we're just along for the ride. As we've been saying this entire time, expect nothing, but appreciate everything. That'll do it for us here on Wednesday. As always, thank you all so much for joining us. Be sure to hit that like button, drop your comments in the comment box. Tell us what you think about this upcoming matchup, DJ Burns versus Zach Edey, and how you would approach the game plan coming into this game. Tell us what you think about NC State being in the spotlight on this magnitude, one of the most viewed college basketball games in quite some time, and NC State was on the winning side of that. That's incredible. And if you have not already, mash that subscribe button. We originally set a goal for 1,500 by the end of March. We've now flipped the calendar to April, and we are almost to 1,700. All of the support is unparalleled. There is no fan base like Wolfpack Nation. We are very grateful, and we're going to keep this thing rolling. Continue to hit that subscribe button. Tell a friend to do the same. We will see you all tomorrow. Until then, go Pack.
Go Pack.